What's up everyone, China Cycling here. Today we're talking about the Voicevelo G Major. It's a 790 gram gravel frame set which I built into this bike here, which is a 6.9 kilogram all-terrain badass gravel bike. I'm going to go through the frame, I'm going to go through the bike, I'm going to go through how it rides and all that good stuff. So let's check it out. Now today's video is going to be a long one because we're going to go through the frame, we're going to go through the brand, and we're going to go through the bike itself. So grab yourself your favorite brew of choice and let's dive in. This was actually sent to me by the good folks over at Magine. So yeah, let's crack it open. Cheers, Magine. So first things first, before we understand the product, I think you have to understand the company behind it. So let's talk a bit about Voicevelo or VFV. So Chinese brand, previously mountain bike focused, and that's because of the founder, a guy called Ling Ying. He was like the first Chinese guy to do the Cape Epic, and he's also done the Cape Epic on his own mountain bike. So yeah, like I said, mainly a mountain bike brand, but the guy himself is a racer, and then he builds his own products. So he's done mountain bike frames, mountain bike handlebars, seat posts, like the one you see here, which I also have on my G2. And now this is the first gravel product, this gravel frame set called G Major. So the boss of VFV, you know, he's a super successful cross-country mountain bike racer. So of course the products he makes are going to be race focused and, you know, letting you get the best performance out of your gear. So now we understand a bit about the brand, we can start to understand the product a bit more. So this is, like I said, the first gravel frame set. It's called the G Major. Basically, different sizes and different paint jobs are going to be different weights, of course, but the lightest one in a size medium, I believe, is 790 grams. I'll put the weights up on the screen somewhere. But obviously 790 grams for a gravel frame set is super competitive. And I think my Yo-Yo frame set was like 1,100 or 1,200 grams even. So 790 grams is super impressive. There are 4 different sizes and 7 different paint jobs. I went for this paint job. Lots of the paint jobs are very gravel. This one was more loud and in your face, kind of my style. So I thought I'd go for that. I like bright colors. I like orange. So it is what you see. So yeah, the frame is pretty racy. Like I said, the boss of the brand, he's a racer himself, so of course he's going to make racy products. But yeah, you can see I've got quite a decent drop on this, and yeah, it's a very racy setup for a gravel bike. Tire clearance on these, we've got, so 700C tires I've got there on the moment. Maximum 700C tire size is 47C. I've got a 38C on here, and for me, that's enough, that's fine. If you drop down to 650B, you can go up to 2.1 inches. So yeah, if you really want to go on gnarly stuff, you can put some fat tires on there too. As you can see, no holes in the frame for external cable routing, but it does come with this stem, and this stem is pretty snazzy because it lets you run fully internal cables or kind of like half internal cables, kind of like the Tarmac SL7. So they can either go through the handlebar and then through the handlebar into the stem and then down into the frame so you don't see them at all. Or you can do what I've done, which is they go underneath the handlebar and then they go underneath the stem and down into the frame in a little gap there. So the frame comes with the stem. The stem is made out of carbon fiber. I think I weighed it at like 120, 130 grams. So a super competitive weight. And it's big and beefy as well, very chunky. So I'm sure stiffness is up there too. But the thing I like about this is that I can easily take off the faceplate of the stem and get the handlebars off and put it in next to the frame. So if I want to travel with the bike, it will easily fit into a bike bag, no problem. And moving back to the seat post, like I said, this seat post they've been selling for like 2 or 3 years. I've got one on my G2, but now this seat post actually comes with the frame as well. So for the frame set, you get the frame, you get the stem, and you get the seat post. So quite the big package. That's what she said. The frame itself has quite a few mounting options. So you can see I've got this top tube bag on here. There are 3 bolts under there. There are also bolts underneath the top tube. 4 bolts there I can feel. And then you've got bolts on the top and the bottom of the down tube, and then on the front of the seat tube as well. So quite a few mounting holes on here. Yeah, so I'm just on the Panda Podium website looking at the weights now. So the VG1 paint job in a size M is the lightest at 790 grams. And then the heaviest size M is the VG6 paint job, which is 890 grams. My one here, which is a VG7 in a size S, 855 grams for the frame. So yeah. In terms of sizes, there are 4 sizes available. This is a size S, which they think is like a 48, an M, which they think is a 51, an L, which is a 54, and an XL, which is a 57. So the XL isn't that XL. And now for gravel usage, rider height, they reckon, so the shortest on the size S is like 1.58 m, and then the tallest on the size XL is like 1.86 m. So if you're above 1.86 m, you may be out of luck. But even on the L and the XL, like I've noticed the stack is pretty low. So maybe only if you really want a racey setup is this good. Otherwise, you might be slamming some spacers underneath the stem. But it does come with spacers that match the shape of the stem too, so it doesn't look too bad. Again, there's pictures on the website of people who've got spacers under the stem. Me, smallest size, no spacers, slammed. That's how I like it. Now, one thing I really love about gravel bikes is just the almost infinite possibilities of how to build them up. You know, 1x, 2x, big tires, small tires, flared bars, not flared bars, flat bars, anything you want. So for me, a gravel frame is cool, but it's how you build into the bike, which is really interesting. So let me talk about how I built my bike up. So the frame, we've gone over that. The wheels, these are also awesome. These are the CRW gravel wheels, and also super lightweight. So these are 24mm internal and 30mm external, I think. They're hooked, tubeless ready. I've got them set up tubeless, of course, but because they're hooked, you can run clinches if you want. But these are just 1,260 grams. That is ridiculously light. For comparison, DT's gravel wheels, the top of the range ones, the DT spline 1400, I think, they're like 1,545 grams. So that's like almost a 300 gram difference of wheels. Lighter weight gravel wheels like the Roval Terra CLs, I think they're called. Those are 1,400 and something grams. So again, like 150 gram difference even with super light Roval gravel wheels. So these things, super lightweight, but you know, that's CRW, that's what they're known for. But this frame was a super lightweight frame. It made sense to put super lightweight wheels on it. And then other lightweight components I went for, the side brake crankset, again, a super lightweight crankset. I've talked about it before. I've used it on like 3 or 4 of my bikes at this point. Yeah, I wanted this to be quite a light build. Handlebar, it's like a generic handlebar that I use on most of my builds. So on road bikes, I run 34cm bars. Previously on my gravel bikes, I ran 40cm bars. But on this, I'm actually running a 36cm bars on the hoods, and it flares down to like 40cm on the drops. And I gotta say, so far, I'm loving it. Like, one thing I hated before was going from my road bike 34cm bars to going to a gravel bike and feel like I'm steering an oil tanker. Now on this, I go from road bike 34 to gravel 36, and it's a little bit different, but it's like totally acceptable. So I'm super glad I went for that. I'm enjoying that so far. Even when it's gnarly, getting the drops, and basically got a 40cm bar, and that's enough for me. One thing I did forget to mention about the frame is it comes with this cool like Kevlar-ish steerer tube. Something I've only ever seen on like time bikes before. I guess the advantage is added strength, and also I think if you did have a crack or a failure of the carbon in the steerer tube, then the Kevlar should keep it all together to stop you having some massive accident or whatever. And like I say, something I've never seen on time bikes before. It's a cool feature. I'm guessing it's not cheap to produce. But yeah, it's a cool feature. Now I'm going to get my riding gear on, take this for a ride, tell you more about it in just a second. But before we did, I thought I'd share something with you from the catalog. Why G major? Now, and I'm quoting this from the catalog. The melody of Bach's prelude in G major is similar to cycling. Riders embark on a long and painful climb to the top of the mountain. When they reach the crescendo and finish the climb, they are rewarded with magnificent scenery and the sense of achievement which will turn the hard ride into a sweet, sweet feeling. When we were coming up with a name for this gravel bike, Bach's G major gave us the idea, and that's how it got its name. Me? I prefer Mozart. So on tarmac roads like this thing just flies. This is the most confidence-inspiring bike I've ever ridden. The racy geometry, mixed with low center of gravity and just thick ass tires and big ass brakes. Super stable in the corners and yet turns in super quickly too. This thing loves the concrete, loves the tarmac just as much as it loves the dirty stuff. So when we're doing gravel in Xiamen, this is most, or in most of China I guess, this is most what it is. These like rutted dust roads, dirt roads, sand roads, I don't know what you call them, but the surface varies a lot. You go from like dust covered concrete to like sand like this, and yeah, you hear the sound of the tires change a lot too. So you definitely need something nimble to avoid the potholes and stuff and choose the best line. And that's why I think this G major, that's a point where it excels at. Super nimble. You see it coming up or something, you can just dodge right around it super quick. I don't know how they do it. Keep it super nimble with such a long wheelbase. But yeah, it's a bit of a buzz. Again, this probably looks like super mild gravel on camera. Probably looks super slow, but rest assured it's a good workout for the whole body. Again, stuff like this, I like to ride it in the drops. Just I feel the drops have more suspension, more compliance than the HUDs. And obviously lower center of gravity always helps on the corners too. Again, on the camera you can't see, but this road is also constantly undulating, and every so often you hit a patch of sand that's been used to fill a pothole and you feel your front tire just starting to want to wipe out. Put some more weight on it, hope it grips, or hope you cover the sand. Good fun. I've said it before, I have some of the worst off-road bike handling skills in the world, but when I'm on this thing, I feel like, I don't know who I feel like, one of those off-road guys. I went for the Maxxis Ramblers in a 38mm. I've had them in 40mm before. I thought they were plenty good, but now in 38s. Again, for stuff like this, absolutely perfect. If it was wet, if it was muddy, I don't think it would be enough, but I've got other bikes for when the terrain gets like that, or put on a different set of tires, different set of wheels on this thing. I think in 650B, this can take like 2.2 inch mountain bike tires. So I also want to try that out on some gnarlier gravel at some point, but for me, half the fun is being under-biked, or you know, under-tractioned, let's say. Having a bit of a slip and slide on the back wheel every so often keeps you about your wits. Every so often there are these sections where an excavator's gone through on tank tracks and totally washboard the road. And yeah, this VFV seat post, that washboard stuff, is what it takes care of perfectly. I don't want to put a number on it because I guess it depends on the speed, but I feel like, you know, 1 or 2 centimeter ruts, this VFV seat post is amazing at like ironing them out. But if you do suddenly have a big, bigger than, I don't know, 3 or 4 centimeter rut or pothole or something, I feel like the seat post almost acts as a spring and like catapults you out of the saddle. But you know, there's no, you can't have your cake and eat it, right? But obviously, hopefully if it's a 4 or 5 centimeter rut, you'll see it in time and get out the saddle. If this does catapult me out the saddle, I just switch to riding out of the saddle and sit down after the rough stuff. So it's never the end of the world, but yeah. I think a road like this, a hardtail cross-country bike will probably be faster, but I don't think it'll be this fun. This thing is a hoot. Like I say, just these little ruts, there'd be nothing for a cross-country bike, but for this gravel bike, it's enough to, you know, give you the feeling of speed as you bounce all over the place. But the bike does a brilliant job of mopping it up. Like I say, I only have 38s on here. I usually ride this road on like my G2, which has, you know, 50mm 650B tires, and this thing seems to take the blows as good as, if not better than, the G2. So I think that's down to the frame. Like I said, we've got the top tube, which is super flat and super slanted, which I think acts as a nice beam, torsion beam, leaf spring, something. Insert engineering speak here, I guess. And then combined with the VFV seat post, yeah, you get very comfortable. And then at the front end, the slack head tube angle also helps to give you some vertical compliance for the front wheel. And then, like I say, ride in the drops and you're golden. The stem is also stiff, so not getting any extra compliance from that. But yeah, it's not the end of the world, because when you're riding in the drops, most of your compliance is coming from the bars and not the stem anyway. So, and then when it does get super steep and you grab the hoods and get out the saddle and start putting the power through, then you appreciate that stiffness of this beefy stem. And while being beefy, it's not that heavy. So cool design. Woo. I'm super out of shape these days. Got the Christmas belly on for sure. These little hills kicking my ass. So yeah, it's safe to say that I am in love with this bike. Now back in the beginning, like the paint job, I wasn't a fan. There's like 7 different paint jobs and none of them really stuck out for me. In the end I went for this one. It was the brightest, loudest one I could find. And I think the frame didn't look very great, but in my opinion, when you build it up as a full bike, especially with some tan wall tires, I think it looks pretty ripping, looks very gravel. Appearance-wise, I love the sloping top tube as well. And like I said, I think that's what gives it a lot of its nice compliance. Like speckled paint job on the frame, I love that as well. You've got speckles on both the front and the back. It looks really cool because it hides the mud really well, but also, you know, if you don't protect your down tube, it's going to do a good job of hiding all the dinks and scratches you get as well, because, you know, it's a gravel bike at the end of the day. The font of like the G major and stuff like this, I'm not the biggest fan in the world, but you know, you can't choose everything, and I think overall the bike looks pretty kick-ass. I also love how it works out with like the integration stuff. So like you say, it's kind of like the old SL7, I guess. So the hydraulic cables, mine, they come out of the shifters, they run underneath the bar, like just wrapped under the bar tape, and then they go under the stem here, and then they dip down into the frame there. And it's a nice small hole, so I don't think you have any problems with water getting in there or anything like that. But it's a super neat solution. It means, you know, your cables, it's still easy to take the handlebar off the bike if you need to take it on a journey or whatever, because you can still take the handlebar off the stem. It's not like a fully integrated handlebar. So for traveling with the bike, that's going to be really cool as well. But the main thing I love about the bike is just the ride characteristics. Now, in theory, of course, you can describe and explain everything with physics. You know, you can dive into the geometry of, you know, head tube angles and rake and trail and all that stuff, and you can start comparing bikes and stuff, but I think you really have to ride the bike to get a good judge of it. And especially with gravel, there are so many different variations, you know, the different sizes of frames, but then also different sizes of wheels and different sizes of tires. Like changing a tire size is going to change your trail figure, which is also going to affect your handling. Obviously different stem lengths, that's going to affect your handling. Bar width, that's going to affect your handling as well. Now, I don't know if I got lucky with mine or if it's just a well thought out frame, but this thing is great. Like it does have the best of both worlds. So you got like stability on the gnarly stuff, like if you're going down a gravel descent, it's super stable on that. But also if you're ratcheting down like a tarmac descent, it's got super stability in high speed corners there as well. But at the same time, it still feels super, super nimble. And I'm not quite sure how they've done it. Like I say, someone who's more of a geometry whiz than me can maybe explain it with the numbers. But yeah, I'm loving it. In my other video on the Yolio, so the Yolio has a really small head tube, maybe even a little bit smaller than this, but because of the integrated bar gubbins and stuff, like I think the stack actually ends up being higher. So the bars on this, I'm fairly sure, are lower than my Yolio, and yeah, for me, I prefer that to be as low as I can at the front. Obviously on there you've also got the UHD, SRAM, whatever gubbins it is, mountain bike guys, you know what I'm talking about. But that means you can put on all of the new SRAM Eagle rear derailleurs as well. As I said, the boss of VFV has his mountain bike background, so this is basically more towards the mountain bike side of stuff than the road bike side of stuff on a gravel bike, I reckon. Now I've talked about what I like about the frame, but obviously there's no such thing as a perfect product. I think there's two things maybe that I don't like about this, which are small niggles for me. The first one is the front brake mount. So now usually on a disc brake bike, the rear brake caliper, the bolts go all through the frame, through the chainstays, right? And they're screwing from the bottom. Whereas usually on the front fork, the bolts come in from the side of the caliper and don't go all through the front fork. But the way VFV have done it is the bolts that hold on the caliper actually go through the front of the fork and then screw into the caliper like that. The frame comes with the bolts, so in theory not an issue, but when it does become an issue is when you have like non-standard brakes. So on this I have the L2 brakes, and as we know the L2 brakes have the special adapter things. Now that adapter didn't play nice with these bolts, and I had to find some other bolts to bodge it kind of together. Again, if you were just using Shimano stuff or SRAM stuff, it wouldn't be an issue. But for me on this L2 setup, I had to find another bolt, which was a bit of a pain in the arse. I can't really see the advantage of the bolts coming through the front, so I don't know why they did it. Yeah, so that's one thing that I don't really like. The second thing that I don't like about this is the bottle cage location on the seat tube. So for me, this is too high. Like you can see, there's wasted space here. I wish this could drop down a bit, you know, drop it down another 5-6 centimeters, and then this space here would be better used. Two reasons why. Number one, lower center of gravity, always nicer. Number two, getting the bottles out of the cage. So obviously we've got this super sloping top tube, and that means I have not got much room over here. So these are side loading bottle cages, so it's not a problem. I had normal bottle cages on them before, and you could still get the bottles out. But if I wanted to put a frame bag here or whatever, you can clearly see I could put a nice frame bag to here, and then it's going to hit the bottle. So if this could just go down like 6 centimeters or so, that would have been a lot better. Yeah, a small thing, but it annoys me. Maybe I'll make a bracket or something to manually lower the bottle cage, and I'll report back if I do. But yeah, that's one thing that I wish would be a bit better. But speaking of bottle cages and stuff, I guess I didn't mention it before, there are bottle cage mounts all over here. So you can see I got my toolbox down here. I like putting toolboxes down here. I've always been on the fence, like, does it look goofy or not? But I think this is a fairly free place to carry stuff. What I mean by that, you know, the center of gravity is super low, and then also I feel here like you can put things here without messing with the aero too much. I've not seen any data, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was actually quicker to put something here than not put something here, because you're filling up a gap of air where air could all get turbulent and mushy. So in my opinion, you're probably not getting penalised at all for putting it here, so yeah, a cool place to put your stores. It does look a bit goofy, I reckon, but you know, it's a gravel bike, so do what you do. Also, on the bottom of the top tube, we've got 4 bolts here, so again, you can put whatever you want there, with different frame brags or whatever. And also we've got, we've got 3 bolts on the top as here, so we can put a bag up there as well. No bolts on the front fork. I think that's a bit strange, but you know, it is what it is. Obviously putting a bottle or whatever here is like the worst place to put it in terms of aero anyway, but you know, I think you should let the consumer make that choice and not take the choice away from them. Moving on to the rest of the build, so we'll go for the Groupset, the EGR Groupset from L2. What can I say? The love-hate relationship continues with L2, but this time it's love. So this has been absolutely flawless since I installed it to now. The gear setup was 2-second job. As soon as I indexed the one gear, the whole thing has worked fine ever since. The rear derailleur, like the clutch mechanism or the spring mechanism, whatever, is so solid that you get like basically no chain rattle. I've never dropped a chain, but I've not even heard the chain hit the chainstay yet. So yeah, super good chain retention on there too. It can only go up to a 46 cassette. I wish it could do a 50 or 52, but 46, it is what it is. I've put, I think this is a 38 chainring I've got on there now. So a 38 chainring with a 46 on the back is a pretty good climbing gear. And I've got a 10 tooth offset as well. So also a very fast gear as well. So far, never been undergeared or overgeared, and the jumps between the gears are also acceptable because it's 12 speed cassette. Brakes have been fine, installed it, didn't even bleed it because sometimes with the L2 that makes more problems than it causes, so didn't even bleed it, but the brake feel is absolutely fine. The throw of the levers, all that stuff is all good. Like I say, shifting is faultless. One thing I wish, so there's actually buttons on the left shifter that don't do anything. And in the app you can change it so the left shifter controls the rear derailleur or the right shifter controls the rear derailleur. But I wish you could control it, but I wish you could set it so both control the rear derailleur. That way, you know, if you're drinking water with your right hand or something, or messing around, you could still shift gears with your left hand if ever you needed to. I think that would be really cool, and I'll suggest that to them and hope they can change that in the firmware. But yeah, I've had no other issues. Not ridding it in the rain yet, not done any river crossings or anything yet. I don't really want to play that game anymore, like I'm exhausted. Yeah, is it waterproof? Isn't it waterproof? I don't know. I'll save that to a dedicated video on the Groupset, I guess. Aside from the Groupset, let's move on. So side brake crankset, in theory a road crankset, not a gravel crankset, but I wanted to make a nice light bike, so that's on there. Super light crankset, super stiff, we all know all that jazz. I've got the XKD power meter on there, and then these pedals are pretty cool. These are the XPedo pedals, and yeah, I just brought them because they're orange and they match the bike, but nice bearings in there. And then also you've got one side which is the SPD pedals, and then the other side which is flats, because I like using gravel bikes for commuting and stuff. And also if it does get really gnarly, I'm a bit of a wimp and I don't want to clip in, so I'll unclip and spin around to this side, and then you can still have the option to bail out if the road gets gnarly or whatever. So yeah, these pedals are pretty cool, enjoying those. Like I say, a 38 chainring on there. I had a 46 at first, but that was way too big of a gear. Like 46, 1-to-1 was okay for climbing, but lots of the gravel around here is like going at walls, so I like to have the better gear. 38 chainring from Stone. I use Stone for most of my 1x chainrings. I have no issues with them ever. Wheels are also another good one, so it's kind of like a secret that CRW actually make very good steel spoked wheels as well as the carbon spoke wheels. So the carbon spoke wheels, they get all of the press, all of the attention, rightfully so. They are amazing wheels, but they also make really good steel spoke wheels, especially these gravel wheels. So these gravel wheels, super lightweight. I'll put the numbers up on screen or whatever, and maybe I'll do a dedicated video on them, and I'll put them on some other bikes and stuff. But yeah, super light wheels, but nice and wide. I think 24mm internal, which we use 38 tires. That's plenty enough. Steel bearings for extra robustness or whatever. They roll great. They seem to take a lot of the bumps out of the road really well, but obviously you got big tires on there and they're doing most of that for you. But yeah, CRW gravel wheels, if you're doing a gravel build, fully recommended. Then the rest of the build, I guess the cockpit is a bit controversial-ish for gravel. I've got a 36cm handlebar in here, so it's 36cm on the hoods, but with a flare. I think it flares down to about 40cm. And yeah, for me, I love that. I got a KOM on this bike the other day on like a more or less flat or a rolling road that was on tarmac. And yeah, I went faster on this than I've gone on my road bike. So yeah, that is what it is. So yeah, like if you're talking about speed on a gravel bike, especially if you're still going 30 k's an hour or whatever, aero is still everything. So having a nice, low, narrow front end, I think is what keeps me going very fast on this thing. Then moving further back, the VFV seat post comes with the frame. Like I say, great for taking out all of the smaller dumps in the road, adds some comfort. And up the top, I've just got an Estella Italia SLR Boost saddle, I think it is, I can't remember. Yes, carbon saddle, but with a bit of padding in there just to take the edge off the rumble of the road. Yeah, all in all, this is definitely my favorite gravel bike now, and maybe my favorite bike overall. Like, gravel bikes are just so cool. You know, you can do everything on them. Off-road stuff, they're super fun. But on-road, this is also more incapable. Use it as a commuting bike, use it as a touring bike, all that stuff. So yeah, I'm very impressed. Okay, so we're back here. Now, yeah, I don't know how to sum this up. This has been a very long video, but I think this is a bike that's deserved it. Now, I don't always like directly comparing products because I think different products are different things to different people, and I don't think there's such thing as the best X or the best Y. It's only the best for you. But of course, we've got to make some comparisons. And yeah, so far I've reviewed 3 Chinese gravel bikes on the channel, and now this is my personal favorite. It may not be the best for you, but for me, this is my favorite. A few reasons. Number 1, the weight. So this is my lightest gravel bike by far. And number 2, the geometry. It's snappy and stable at the same time. And number 3, just the ride quality. This thing absorbs the bumps like nobody's business. So I said before in my YOLO review, like I think that's more of like a good gravel bike for like American style flat gravel where you're just doing 400k rides on fire roads or whatever. This thing is more for your up and down, all over, left, right gravel, like doing more, I'm not going to say trails, but yeah, more traily stuff, like, more nimbly stuff and more climbing and more descending. I think that's where this shines. But of course, you do get what you pay for, having the extra lightweight, having the extra features, having the Kevlar steerer tube and the UDH derailleur hanger and all these small extra features, the included seat post, the included stem, these do push the price up. So it is also the most expensive gravel bike I've reviewed on the channel. So is it a coincidence that the most expensive is the best? Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, $2,099. Like I say, it's not cheap, but again, depends what we're comparing it to. If you compare it to the Chinese stuff, it's not cheap, but if you compare it to the Western stuff, I think you're onto quite a good bargain. Compare this to something like a Specialized Diverge S-Works frame set or a Crux frame set or the Factor Gravel frame set, I forget the name. Yeah, and you're looking at quite a bargain. This has me back in love with gravel. If you've been emailing me these days and I'm slow to reply, it's because almost every afternoon I slack out the office and take this for a little loop around here. I need to find some more gravel roads. The one thing about China is there's not that many gravel roads to ride, but I'm now even more determined to find some because this thing is just a hoot to ride. Yeah, I'm back in love with gravel and I can see myself being on this for the foreseeable future. I think I'm also just scratching the surface of this. Like for me, gravel, when you change wheels and you change tires, the experience totally changes as well. And I've got a whole bunch of gravel wheels and gravel tires I can put in this to try and play around with and see what happens to the experience. So I'll update as we go from there. Is it a perfect frame? No, I mentioned earlier the 2 or 3 nitpicky things that I don't really like about it, but nothing's perfect. Anyway, this turned into a mammoth video. I think I'm only scratching the surface, like I said, so I think there's going to be more content on this coming soon. I'll put links in the description down below to all the parts. Most of the parts for this build are over on pandapodium.cc. Some parts aren't, but if I remember, I'll put links to those on other websites too. Obviously, a new brand, a new product, there's going to be lots of questions there. I tried to answer everything in this video, but I'm sure there's things that I didn't answer, so let me know in the comments down below and I'll be patrolling the comments to try and answer. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more content about this bike when it comes out. If you've enjoyed the video, smash that like button, all that jazz. And yeah, happy riding, guys. China Cycling out. It's the bonus clip time. As a little insert, the group set so far has been flawless to this day. Even I washed it with a pressure washer, purposefully trying to get it wet and stuff. No, didn't skip a beat, still going strong. Again, everything's perfect until it isn't. But so far, yeah, no complaints from the EGR. So yeah, we'll see. I'll update you if that changes, of course, but we'll see how that keeps going. As a final PS, I am supposed to be announcing the winners of 2 giveaways we've got going on at the moment. Got 2 giveaways at the moment. We've got the giveaway for the Feiyu camera and we have the giveaway for the Olerdance cameras. I contacted the 3 winners, but 2 of them replied, 1 of them didn't reply. I want to give them a few more days to see if they do reply. If they don't reply, I'm going to choose another winner. So that's why that's taking a bit longer than it should. But I'll make another video or put it at the end of the next video that I make. Oh, and if you're wondering about this new location, Pandapodium, we're kind of outgrew our old office, so now we've moved on to a bigger office, and so I'm not in my new studio yet. That's being done, and maybe next time you'll see me, I'll be in there. Anyway, thanks as always for watching, and yeah, that's me. China Cycling out. It's the bonus clip time. Thank you.